Does anyone remember those giant indoor playgrounds from back in the day? You'd beg your parents to be taken to these magical places of vast ball pits, convoluting tunnels, and slides that hurt your ass all the way down. Together with friends, you'd pretend to be brave explorers embarking on quests through the maze of vibrantly colored plastic. Or you'd play hide and seek as you excitedly hurtled through jungle gyms, balanced over tight ropes, zipped around on track lines, and barreled headfirst down tunnel slides. The place from my childhood was called Adventureland. Just writing its name sends a wave of nostalgia through me, followed closely by a chill. It was located in a shopping plaza 20 minutes from my house. From the outside it looked run down, save for the colorful block letters that adorned its entrance. Once inside, a kid could get lost in its sawing environment for hours, days maybe, if their parents let them. I'll never forget those tunnel slides. Those few seconds of darkness never failed to thrill me, where it didn't matter if your eyes were opened or closed, it all looked the same to every kid. A mutual blackness seen by none yet experienced by all who dared plunge into its abyssal mouth. I had a love-hate relationship with one particular slide. I remember standing at the top of it with bated breath. The slide would go down 4 stories, which was taller than my house, and dump its contents at the ground level of the playscape. 4 stories of darkness, a red plastic tube that had no lights, no windows, nothing to grip as you helplessly slid down it. Sometimes I'd linger at the top, a certain fear rooting me in place. I'd let kids go in front of me and listen to their whoops fade, like the siren on a receding ambulance. Then I'd anxiously look at the other end of the slide, a part of me wondering what would happen if the kid somehow got lost in the tunnel, never to be seen again. Before these thoughts could manifest into reality, I'd catch the kid emerging unscathed with a wide grin on his face. "It's safe," a voice inside my head said, a voice that would become more clear as I grew older, the voice of reason. See, nothing to be afraid of. But sometimes that voice is wrong. Sometimes a kid's gut feeling isn't just his imagination getting the best of him. When every hair on your body feels like needles on a pine tree, you just know that something doesn't feel right. Grown-ups won't believe you. Why would they? You're just a kid. Your input is irrelevant. That's why the grown-ups, including my parents, never believed me when I told them that my sister had been kidnapped by the man who lived in the tunnels of Adventureland. After all, I was just a kid whose sister had gone missing. There were always those dumb rumors that spread through town. During a time before text messaging and social media, stories were swapped on concrete stoops like Pokemon cards, or outside convenience stores where $5 was enough to buy a day's worth of candy. They spoke of some sick fuck wedging razor blades in the cracks of the tunnel slides. An unsuspecting kid would go down the slide and come out with a gash the size of the Mississippi River down their back. I'd always wonder how someone could possibly put a razor blade there, with the slides being so slippery and dull. Other rumors included people hiding in the ball pits. If a lone child got too close, they'd grab them, drug them up, and take them through some secret trapdoor at the bottom of the pit. How many kids have they taken? I'd ask with fearful eyes. Oh, hundreds. My friends would reply nonchalantly, and go back to trading a Makemp for an Adoking. I always took these rumors with a grain of salt. Were they true? Probably not. Could they be true? Possibly. It was enough for me to play at Adventureland with caution. I'd take extra time crawling through the tunnels, aware that someone could be hiding around the corner, waiting to grab me. Emily, my younger sister, was not as careful as me. She was macron and vulnerable. I had introduced Emily to the wonders of Adventureland. I proudly showed her how to use the track lines and tipped her off on the arcade games that gave you the most tickets. I also lead her through the tunnels and down the tunnel slides, including the one that was 4 stories tall. I couldn't show her any fear, so without hesitation I plummeted down the slide. I heard her giggles until about halfway down. Then I heard nothing for a few seconds. Everything went dark. I was alone. I thought of hidden razor blades. Before I could panic, I emerged into the safety of the light. I sighed in relief and looked up at the smiling face of my sister. I waved cheerfully. See? Nothing to be afraid of. At the time, I couldn't bear to scare her with rumors that weren't proven to be true. I couldn't tell her to watch out for razor blades in the slides, or kidnappers in the ball pit, or used needles in the tunnels. If you saw the way she looked up to me like I was her hero, you'd understand. The night before her disappearance, I had a terrible dream. I was at Adventureland, standing before the giant playscape. The arcade behind me was silent. I was alone. There was a gripping pressure on my chest, the same inexplicable fear I felt those few moments inside the red tunnel slide resurfaced. Only this time, it was prolonged and torturous. My eyes wandered up toward one of the tunnels. There, in one of the fishbowl windows, was a man. His ugly face was twisted in a sneer as he looked down at me with morbid pleasure. With a long, crooked finger he beckoned me over. My body began to move toward him, climbing up and up and up until a broken bar. I woke up. My bed was soaked with sweat. I saw the man's gleeful face every time I closed my eyes, only now it was more contorted. I shuddered and tried to find sleep. I knew the bad news was coming seconds before the phone rang. My mother answered it and began screaming. Together we drove to Adventureland to find my sister. The cops were already there. They kept a close watch on the people who came and went. I overheard several grown-ups talking that day, and this is what I was able to piece together. Emily was at a birthday party for one of her classmates. When it was time to go into one of the side rooms for pizza and cake, my dad, one of the chaperones, did a quick head count. He noticed that my sister was missing. After waiting impatiently for some time, he started calling her name through the slides. She did not come out. Several kids went in to go find her, and when they turned up empty-handed, shit hit the fan. My dad started freaking out on one of the supervisors and demanded a search party for Emily. The cops were called. They, too, couldn't find anything. The grown-ups started telling stories about an abduction where a kid was taken to the bathroom, their head was shaved, and they were snuck out the grocery store under this quick disguise. The same thing must have happened to Emily, they said. At this point an Amber Alert had been issued for my sister. I must have swept through the playscape a dozen times looking for Emily. I knew it was pointless. She had been taken by the man I saw in my dreams, the man who lived in the tunnels. I just knew it. My gut told me so. But who would believe me? Adventureland closed its doors for good a few days later. When the cops asked for surveillance footage of the property, the owner shamefully admitted that there were no cameras installed. When the building was inspected more closely, it turned out that Adventureland had several glaring safety violations. Emily's tomb of plastic had been sealed the next day. I knew she was still in there somewhere. Whether or not she was alive was a different question. My parents were too preoccupied with Emily's disappearance to notice I had taken a long bike ride. My mission was to find my sister and bring her back. The outside of Adventureland looked more dilapidated than usual. I went around the back, looking for a way in. There was a door with a small window above the handle. I picked up a rock and broke the glass. The security alarm didn't go off. I let myself in. I crept through the building until I came to the main room. The playground looked like the skeleton of some massive exotic beast. The only source of light came from the front side windows, giving the room an eerie, amber glow. I approached one of the tunnels of the beast and stood there timidly. It was pitch black in there. I dug through my backpack and fished out the flashlight I brought with me. I snapped it on and cast a beam of light around the playscape. My flashlight bounced from one fishbowl window to the next, looking for that sneering face from my nightmare. When they all seemed clear, I shined my light into the tunnel. Then I reached into my pocket and my hands gripped around the cold handle of my pocket knife. I started having second thoughts. What if the man was still here, waiting for me? Sure, I had a knife with me. But would it be enough to take on a full-grown man? Maybe broken bar if I hit him in the jugular. I didn't know exactly where the jugular was, but my friends swore that if you got hit in the jugular, you were as good as dead. What if I missed? It would only take him 3 seconds for him to overpower me and unzip my guts. What if this guy wasn't human? As if to answer my question, a chuckle came from deep within the darkness. My heart leapt into my throat. I waited for a minute, listening intently for footsteps, or in this case, someone shuffling through the tunnels. The place was as quiet as an empty cathedral. I thought of Emily, her radiating, innocent smile, the way she looked at me. I felt an invigorating surge of bravery wash over me. I climbed into the tunnel, flashlight in one hand and pocket knife in the other. I crawled through the tunnels cautiously. I had spent enough time here to know where I was going, But that didn't change the fact of how fucking terrifying the darkness was. With each turn my bravery faded more and more. A new feeling was taking its place. I was going to die in here. After crawling through the maze of tunnels for some time, hearing nothing but my short, rapid breaths and thundering heart rate, I came to a strange sight. Someone had burned a hole in the plastic surface of the tunnel, but it didn't stop there. The hole kept going through the adjacent wall and into the building's cavity. It looked like straight out of one of those prison break movies that played on TV. He took Emily into there, I thought with a dull sense of rage. I audaciously climbed through the hole and ventured beyond the wall. I passed pink tufts of wall insulation that resembled cotton candy. The plumbing pipes hummed silently overhead as I crawled on all fours. The air here was more dank and had a wet basement smell to it. The tunnel finally opened up into a small concrete room. There was a dirty mattress in one corner with scattered articles of clothing on top of it. Several yellow newspapers and envelopes were strewn all over the floor, along with a few cans of beer and baked beans. I picked up a random envelope. It was simply addressed to a person named Mr. Robert Gray. That was it. No address, no sender information. A sickening thought entered my head. Someone had been living here. Was his name Robert Gray? With shaking hands, I opened the envelope and withdrew the enclosed paper. There was a message written on it in what appeared to be blood. See? Nothing to be afraid of. I noped the fuck out of there. During my frantic escape I thought I heard something chasing me. Something evil. I turned my head once I was back in the tunnels and I could have sworn I saw two orange eyes floating toward me. They appeared to be gaining on me. There was no time to think. I scrambled through the twisting tubes of plastic, my flashlight bobbing ahead of me. I didn't dare cast the light behind me. Whatever was chasing me, it was definitely not human. I had only one option if I was going to survive. That option was coming up fast, the 4-story tunnel slide. Without any hesitation I dove headfirst down it. I closed my eyes and waited to get cut to ribbons by dozens of razors. But before I knew it I plopped down on solid ground. I sprang to my feet and booked it for the back exit. My pursuer wasn't behind me anymore, but I sure as hell wasn't taking any chances. I didn't slow down until I was on my bike and a half-mile away from Adventureland. I kept looking over my shoulder the rest of the way home for those orange eyes, but I got home safe. My parents didn't even notice I was gone, or that they had almost lost another child that day. I kept my encounter at Adventureland to myself for all these years. Nobody believed me at the time. I was just a stupid kid with an imagination that had been tainted by the abduction of my sister. Even as I grew older, I'd just be seen as a damaged kid with a traumatizing past. My word meant nothing. I started keeping tabs on that old building Adventureland used to be in. It became a hibachi restaurant after that. They held a large fundraiser there, and the chef put cyanide in one of the dishes, poisoning a dozen people. 8 people died. Then it became a house of worship. Some faulty wiring caused a fire to break out during one of the services. 14 people died. Today it stands as a daycare center for children. No incidents have occurred.